Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Back with another tutorial. We're going to cover 5 easy to implement reverb tips to take your mixes to the next level, utilizing lush spaces and reverb sounds that evoke emotion. It's a very powerful tool in the mixing process, and I'm going to show you many of the same techniques that I and other pros use to achieve these respectable reverbs for drums, for vocals, and instruments. So whether you're a beginner or a seasoned engineer, after you watch the video, you're going to find more confidence in dialing in vibe-heavy reverb sounds without making a huge washy mess of your mix. So let's go ahead and dive in. Up until recently, the trend for mixing a snare drum is to have it more dry. You don't want to put necessarily a big space or a noticeable space on it so that it cuts through the mix, especially in beat-driven music with more, sample-based drum content. Contextually, that doesn't fit. This has a very dreamy, kind of hypnotic sound to it. The guitar has a big reverb on it. And so I want to blend that a little bit better. And I want to add an interesting space and an interesting lush reverb to the snare. Maybe it's my affinity for late 80s, early 90s snare drums, those big gated snares. But I like to have something a little bit more exciting. It's quite common to use a plate with a smaller decay time for drums and percussion. But my first tip for you is that you can actually utilize some of these bigger spaces like a cathedral or a church, and then we can utilize a smaller decay time. So let's just hear what that sounds like with just the default. Now that would sound cool as maybe a transition going into a chorus or something like that, but for every single one shot, it's way too much. So we're just gonna drop the decay time down. Let's go to maybe like 0.9 seconds. I'm gonna turn on the EQ. You can check my settings here. I'm gonna turn off very low frequency for now. Now the second part of this is to add a very light pre-delay so that we get the transient of our snare drum. It's still gonna cut through the same way in the mix, but we're gonna get that nice tail. Is up above me. Changes the entire feel of that groove and just gives it a more contextually appropriate feel with the rest of our instrumentation. Second tip is a famous technique, arguably one of the most powerful tools we have in controlling reverb sound and carving out space in the mix is EQ, right? Now, this approach that we're going to use today is called the Abbey Road technique, and essentially it just suggests that on all reverbs in our mix, we're going to set the high pass filter at 600 Hertz and the low pass filter at 10K. Let's take a listen to our hook vocal with the EQ turned off on both the leads and the harmonies. Glance as I look into your eyes, I realize this pain. You're the only one to take it all the way. Glance as I look into your eyes, I realize this pain. You're the only one to take it all the way. You could take it all the way. One chance, one glance as I look into your eyes. Now, if you're an Abbey Road purist, set these at 600 and 10K, and that's that. But I will tend to adjust these depending on the source and the effect that I'm going for. Maybe I want a little bit more detail in the high cut. You can turn this more towards 12K. Glance as I look into your eyes, I realize this pain. You're the only one to take it all the way. Yeah, you could take it all the way. One chance. I generally recommend not going lower than about 400 Hertz on the low cut. As you could hear, we start to get some buildup. The whole aesthetic for this song that I put together was to have this washy, dreamy kind of sound. And so these guitar chords, this is what I started with. and I wanted a really nice big reverb. So let's turn this on and let's set this to a hall. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this at 5 seconds, right? So let's hear what that sounds like. Very cool sound, but we want to control it a little bit. We're going to add a very slight pre-delay, maybe 20 milliseconds. And then we're going to reach over here to the early and late reflections control. This is one of the most powerful ways that we can control and tame the reverb without losing that vibe here. Fact what's in your heart, we'll see. Conversations left me feeling empty. Yeah. So let's hear that without. And with. Now I am breaking a number of mixing rules here. Are there rules in mixing, really, at this point? Have we not figured out that there are no rules in creativity? This thing has a tremendous tail on it, and I also dropped this down to 200. Generally speaking, I wouldn't go below 400, but it sounds really cool to me. So follow your intuition. That, to me, fits the track, completely changes the whole feel of it. That really made the entire track for me, was this guitar and reverb sound. Now, most commonly, mixers will utilize a separate delay. We can actually utilize the delay within your reverb. If you want to switch it up and add a different flavor here, this one's going to be really useful for you. Now, here in Seventh Heaven, these delays that are built in do not include early reflections. So you're not going to get that kind of splatter sort of effect that you would. We'll turn this off for now, and let's hear the verse dry. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, no time to debate it. Woke up this morning, my feet to the floor, and the darkness is faded. Now with just the reverb on. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, no time to debate it. Woke up this morning, my feet to the floor, and the darkness is faded. So pretty traditional small hall sound. Now, if we turn on the delay and we add a quarter note, I'm going to turn this up so you can hear it. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, no time to debate it. Woke up this morning, my feet to the floor, and the darkness is faded. You know it comes. Now you hear that interesting delay on the tail of the reverb itself. So let's turn on the EQ, the Abbey Road technique, and let's play it in the context of the mix. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, no time to debate it. Woke up this morning, my feet to the floor, and the darkness is faded. You know it comes back around, like the hope I found. And when I lift you up, will you hold me down? A subtle twist on using a traditional reverb. Now, I find these to be particularly useful in a rap verse where you want interesting delays to fill in the gaps, but you don't want to distract the listener with, a more upfront and blatant sort of delay sound. The fifth and final reverb mixing tip I have for you today is to use different reverbs and reverb sizes throughout the song to strengthen your arrangement. Many of you are always asking me, how do you make your chorus vocals stand out and just make the mix more dynamic and exciting? So if we use one reverb space on the verse, and then we have maybe a slightly larger, more lush reverb for the hook, we can create a sense of movement and progression throughout our song. So again, what a lot of people do is they'll just have this kind of medium reverb that they're using for all their vocals. And right now I have this same reverb set up on the chorus. So let's just hear what that sounds like coming from the verse to the hook with the same reverb applied. You know it, before I fold it, pushing me to keep going. Now they quote it when we deep into your eyes, and I realize this pain. There's no separation there. There's no excitement in the transition, and we're not getting that lift, that exciting lift for our chorus. Now, if we apply a larger space and just a different space altogether with our reverb, in this instance, we have a vocal chamber, 4-second decay time, and then I have a delay, a little bit of pre-delay. It's EQ'd a little different. Let's hear what that sounds like.
You know it before I folded, pushing me to keep going. Now they quote it. I went deep into your eyes, and I realized this pain. You're the only one to take it all the way. Yeah, you could take it all the way. One chance, one glance as I look into your eyes. I realize this pain. You're the only one to take it all the way.
So I hope that will get you thinking more about reverb as an effect that can strengthen arrangement as well. It's not just about creating space and separation, but here we get that clear lift on our hook and we can transition through these different spaces in our songs. All right, y'all, so feel free to take these 5 next level reverb mixing tips into your own sessions. I can guarantee you that your listeners, as well as your clients, are going to notice how much more interesting and complementary your reverb sounds now are utilizing these techniques. If you have your hands on this 7th Heaven Reverb plugin, I'm going to include a link to some of my favorite presets that I've dialed in for you all. You can use those as you wish. And I'm also going to have a more advanced video for reverb mixing techniques that's going to be coming up in the near future. So if you like this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I hope you found this helpful. Much love to y'all. We'll talk to you soon.